Lee Marvin was Hollywood's ultimate tough guy. Or so we thought. But now his own son is speaking out, and what he's revealing will shock you. Hidden secrets, untold struggles, and a side of Lee Marvin no one ever knew exist, and it's going to change everything you thought about this legend. Stay tuned, because this is jaw-dropping. You won't believe what I'm about to reveal. These words have sent shockwaves through Hollywood fans everywhere. Lee Marvin, the legendary actor known for his rugged charm and unforgettable performances in classics like The Dirty Dozen, Point Blank, and Cat Ballou, has long been considered one of Hollywood's most iconic figures. His piercing eyes, gravelly voice, and undeniable presence made him the quintessential tough guy on screen. Yet, behind the camera, Lee Marvin's life was far more complex, nuanced, and mysterious than anyone could have imagined. While fans adored him for his powerful roles and unforgettable on-screen intensity, very little was ever known about the man behind the fame. Lee Marvin's private life remained largely shielded from the public eye, leaving Hollywood enthusiasts to piece together fragments from interviews, tabloids, and rumors. But now, decades after his passing in 1987, a new and astonishing chapter has emerged, and it comes straight from the person who knew him best, his son, Christopher Marvin. Christopher Marvin has remained largely out of the public eye, choosing to live a life away from the glaring lights of Hollywood. But in a rare and deeply emotional interview, he finally broke his silence. With honesty, vulnerability, and a touch of raw emotion, Christopher revealed parts of his father's life that have remained hidden for years, stories that completely challenge the image of Lee Marvin as simply a rugged, hard-edged movie star. For years, the world saw Lee Marvin as a larger-than-life figure, a man whose tough exterior seemed to match the characters he portrayed. But Christopher's words paint a more intricate and human portrait. He spoke of the pressures of fame, the private struggles his father faced, and the complexities of maintaining a family life while constantly in the spotlight. Behind the legendary roles and public persona was a father who loved deeply, sometimes imperfectly, but always passionately. Christopher's revelations also shed light on the personal side of Lee Marvin that fans never got to see, moments of tenderness, humor, and generosity that were often overshadowed by his public image. From quiet family dinners to private acts of kindness, these memories reveal a side of Lee Marvin that is rarely celebrated, but equally important too. Understanding the man behind the legend, perhaps the most stunning aspect of Christopher's interview is how he reframes Lee Marvin's legacy. No longer just a tough guy on screen, he emerges as a multifaceted human being, a father, a friend, and a man who grappled with personal demons while still maintaining the charisma and strength that made him an icon. For fans, these revelations are both shocking and deeply moving, offering a new lens through which to appreciate the life of one of Hollywood's most enduring stars. As Christopher's words continue to circulate, they remind us that even the most legendary figures have sides that remain hidden, often revealing themselves only through the eyes of those who loved them most. This is not just a story about Lee Marvin's fame or career. It's a story about a father, a son, and the untold truths that can finally come to light. Decades later, to astonish the world, Christopher Marvin's childhood was far from ordinary. Growing up as the son of Lee Marvin, one of Hollywood's most iconic actors, came with privileges, but also unique challenges that few could understand. Imagine living with a father whose very presence commanded attention the moment he entered a room, a man whose rugged looks and booming voice were instantly recognizable to millions. To the outside world, Lee Marvin was a symbol of toughness and charisma, the kind of actor whose name alone conjured images of grit, bravery, and cinematic legend. But behind closed doors, life was a very different story. Christopher revealed that his father, despite his fame and commanding screen presence, could be distant at times. struggling to balance the pressures of Hollywood with the demands of family life. I grew up seeing him as larger than life, but I also saw a man struggling with his own demons, Christopher said, his voice tinged with both admiration and melancholy. It was a childhood full of contrasts, love and laughter intertwined with moments of tension and uncertainty, all set against the backdrop of an industry that rarely allowed privacy. Family life often mirrored the cinematic world Lee Marvin inhabited professionally. Christopher recounted vacations that felt like movie sets, with fans and paparazzi sometimes trailing them, turning ordinary moments into extraordinary performances. Yet, amid the spectacle, there were quiet evenings where the true humanity of his father emerged. Those moments were when Christopher glimpsed the vulnerabilities of the man who seemed invincible on screen, moments of laughter, frustration, reflection, and even sorrow. These intimate memories offer a side of Lee Marvin that most of the public never saw, painting him not just as a Hollywood legend, but as a father navigating life's complexities like any other parent. The shadow of fame, however, was never far away. Christopher shared how the public image of his father sometimes created distance between them. People often approached him expecting stories of glitz, glamour, and larger-than-life Hollywood experiences. But Christopher's reality was more nuanced, a mixture of admiration, fear, confusion, and love. The expectations of outsiders sometimes clashed with the private truths of his childhood, leaving him to reconcile the two worlds. He described how, at times, he longed for a normal father-son relationship, unclouded by celebrity, and yet also felt pride in the man his father was, both on screen and off. This candid honesty from Christopher sets the stage for the revelations that would shock the world. By sharing his personal experiences, he paints a vivid portrait of Lee Marvin as a deeply human figure, a man who struggled, loved, and sometimes faltered behind the curtain of fame. The story of his upbringing is more than just family memories. It's a glimpse into the hidden realities of a Hollywood icon, the sacrifices, pressures, and complexities that fame imposes on personal relationships. Christopher's reflections remind us that while the world often sees stars as untouchable legends, their lives are layered with depth, emotion, and challenges that mirror our own. His insights provide an invaluable window into the real Lee Marvin, one that fans rarely get to see, and they make the revelations he would later share even more powerful and surprising. Through these memories, the audience begins to understand the man behind the myth, a father, a husband, and a Hollywood icon whose story is far richer than any movie role could ever capture. Then came the moment that left the world absolutely speechless. In a heartfelt and emotional confession, Christopher Marvin revealed a side of his father that no one had ever seen before. A secret that completely reshapes the way fans think about Lee Marvin. For decades, Hollywood celebrated Lee Marvin as the quintessential tough guy, rugged, unyielding, and larger than life. His on-screen persona was legendary, earning him a place among the greatest actors of his generation. But behind the cameras, away from the flashing lights and roaring applause, the truth was far more complex, and Christopher was finally ready to share it. Christopher began by discussing the immense pressures that accompanied his father's fame. While audiences adored Lee Marvin for his commanding presence and intense performances, Christopher revealed that fame came at a heavy cost. The constant public scrutiny, the expectations of Hollywood, and the burden of living up to his larger-than-life image often weighed on him. These pressures didn't just affect Lee Marvin personally, they trickled down into his family life, shaping relationships and creating emotional distances that the public never saw. Christopher described a father who, despite his stoic exterior, wrestled with inner battles, moments of doubt, and the quiet pain of balancing public expectations with private responsibilities. But the revelation that truly stunned everyone went beyond personal struggles. Christopher shared that Lee Marvin had a side that was completely invisible to the world, a side marked by generosity, compassion, and quiet heroism. He was bigger than people realized, Christopher said. Not just on screen. He quietly helped friends, fought for what he believed in, and sometimes sacrificed his own happiness to protect those he loved. This wasn't just small acts of kindness. Christopher explained that his father often went out of his way behind the scenes to support causes, colleagues, and even strangers in Hollywood. From helping struggling actors get opportunities to quietly funding charitable efforts, Lee Marvin was shaping lives in ways most fans would never have imagined. Christopher's words challenged the long-held perception of Lee Marvin as a purely rugged, hard-edged figure. While audiences had admired his toughness on screen, this new perspective revealed a man of surprising depth and moral integrity. Here was someone whose courage extended far beyond cinematic battles, a man who fought quietly for justice, friendship, and family, often putting others' needs before his own. Fans everywhere were forced to rethink what they thought they knew about the Hollywood icon. Social media erupted with comments expressing awe, surprise, and admiration, as people realized that the man they idolized for his commanding presence and unforgettable performances had also lived a life of quiet heroism. Christopher's revelations didn't diminish his father's legendary status. They enriched it, offering a more complete, humanized view of a man who was as remarkable off-screen as he was on a dot in revealing these intimate truths. Christopher Marvin not only honored his father, but also invited the world to see him through a new lens. Lee Marvin was no longer just a tough guy actor. He was a multifaceted human being whose life was defined by courage, generosity, and an unwavering commitment to the people he loved. The confession left fans shocked, inspired, and eager to learn more, proving that the most compelling stories are often hidden behind the public image. Christopher Marvin's words didn't just shock fans, they resonated on a deeply personal level, leaving audiences around the world reflecting on the man behind the legend. Social media quickly became a hub of emotional reactions, as viewers shared how profoundly moving it was to hear about the private struggles and hidden generosity of a man they had only ever known through his larger-than-life film roles. For decades, Lee Marvin had been admired as a rugged icon, a symbol of strength and grit, but Christopher's revelations peeled back the layers to reveal a human being who wrestled with vulnerabilities and quietly extended kindness in ways no one could have imagined. The story serves as a powerful reminder that fame, while glamorous on the outside, often comes with a price. Behind the cameras, the flashing lights, and the applause, celebrities experience pressures and struggles that the public rarely sees. Christopher's candid reflections illustrate this reality perfectly, showing that Lee Marvin, despite his tough exterior, was a father who loved deeply and a man who faced personal battles with courage, even if imperfectly. By sharing these intimate details, Christopher humanizes a Hollywood icon, making him relatable in a way that audiences had never experienced before. But the impact went far beyond understanding Lee Marvin's challenges. Christopher also spoke about his own journey of understanding, growth, and forgiveness. Growing up in the shadow of a father who was both admired worldwide and emotionally complex was far from easy. Christopher candidly admitted that navigating the duality of public expectation and private reality was sometimes overwhelming. There were moments of confusion, longing, and even resentment. Yet over time, he learned to embrace the full spectrum of his father's humanity, the triumphs, the struggles, the generosity, and the imperfections. He now hopes that by sharing these stories, audiences can gain perspective on the people around them, recognizing that what is visible on the surface rarely tells the full story. One of the most poignant moments of the interview came when Christopher recounted a private farewell with his father before Lee Marvin passed away. In that intimate encounter, away from cameras and headlines, he witnessed a side of his father that perfectly encapsulated the love, vulnerability, and strength that defined him. The raw emotion in Christopher's recollection resonated so powerfully that clips of the interview went viral, drawing millions of views and sparking heartfelt discussions online. Fans were moved not only by the details of Lee Marvin's life, but also by the genuine love between father and son, a love that transcended fame, mistakes, and distance. The emotional impact of Christopher Marvin's interview cannot be overstated. It reminded audiences everywhere that behind every celebrity, no matter how legendary, there's a human story filled with struggle, sacrifice, and deep, sometimes hidden love. Through his openness, Christopher not only honored his father's memory, but also gave fans a chance to connect with the real Lee Marvin in a way that no film or biography could ever fully capture. By the end of the interview, viewers weren't just shocked, they were inspired, moved, and reminded of the universal truths of family, compassion, and understanding. Ultimately, this story is more than just a revelation about a Hollywood legend. It's a testament to the enduring power of honesty, forgiveness, and the bonds that connect us, even across generations. Christopher's words allowed fans to see the man behind the icon, and in doing so, they created a profound emotional legacy that continues to touch hearts worldwide. By the end of Christopher Marvin's emotional interview, it was abundantly clear that he wasn't just sharing childhood stories or personal memories. He was actively reshaping the legacy of his father, Lee Marvin. For decades, Lee Marvin had been remembered as one of Hollywood's ultimate icons, a man whose commanding presence, gravelly voice, and unforgettable performances made him a symbol of toughness and grit. From films like The Dirty Dozen to Cat Ballou, audiences revered him for the sheer force of his on-screen persona. But Christopher's revelations painted a far richer, more nuanced picture, a portrait of a man whose life, off-screen, was as compelling and heroic in its own quiet way as the characters he played. Thanks to Christopher, fans now see Lee Marvin not just as a tough guy legend, but as a deeply human figure, complex, compassionate, and quietly heroic. He wasn't simply a star of the silver screen. He was a father who loved, a friend who gave generously, and a man who quietly supported others even when it came at a personal cost. Christopher's insight transforms our understanding of the man behind the fame, revealing layers of personality and morality that had remained hidden for decades. Where the public once saw strength and intensity, they now see empathy, vulnerability, and quiet courage. Christopher's decision to speak out was not just a cathartic release. It was a deliberate act to preserve his father's true legacy. It's a reminder that even the most celebrated figures in the world have sides that the public may never see. Fame often distorts perception, leaving audiences with a partial image shaped by media, rumors, and on-screen roles. By telling his story, Christopher invites fans to look beyond the headlines and the cinematic persona, encouraging them to appreciate the unseen struggles, sacrifices, and acts of kindness that defined Lee Marvin as a human being. For audiences, this interview is more than an emotional story, it's a gift. It allows fans to connect with Lee Marvin in a way no biography, interview, or film could ever achieve. Through his son's eyes, we see the man who could be stern yet loving, commanding yet vulnerable, a figure of both public awe and private tenderness. It is a reminder that the lives of legendary figures are often more layered and human than the world imagines. In his closing words, Christopher reflected on the heart of his message. I don't want people to see my father as just an icon on the screen. I want them to see him as a man who loved, who struggled, and who gave more than he ever let anyone know. Those words encapsulate the true essence of Lee Marvin's legacy, one that goes far beyond Hollywood fame and cinematic heroism. They remind us that real heroism is sometimes quiet, found in the love, generosity, and integrity a person demonstrates in private. With this new perspective, Lee Marvin's story grows richer, more layered, and undeniably human. The legend of Hollywood remains immortal, but now it carries an added dimension, the legacy of a man whose heart and humanity shine as brightly as the characters he portrayed. Christopher Marvin's courage to speak out ensures that future generations will remember Lee Marvin not only as a cinematic icon, but as a profoundly human figure, whose life, love, and quiet acts of heroism continue to inspire. Through his son's words, the world now understands that behind every icon is a person, a man who could be vulnerable, generous, and deeply loving. And it is in this humanity that Lee Marvin's true legend endures.